US trade officials will hold another meeting with their Chinese counterparts in the next 2 or 3 months to discuss the future of bilateral economic ties. This comes from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. The remarks come a day after both trading partners agreed to extend their tariff truce for another 90 days, avoiding triple-digit duties on each other's goods. Washington accuses Beijing of not stopping the flow of precursor chemicals used to make fentanyl, a leading cause of overdose deaths in the United States. Beijing defends its drug control record and charges Washington with using fentanyl to blackmail China. President Donald Trump imposed 20% tariffs on Chinese imports over the issue in February, which remain in place despite a fragile trade truce reached in Geneva in May. An additional 10% base tariff has also been levied on Chinese goods. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that several major trade agreements, including with Switzerland and India, are still pending, but described both the South Asian nation as a bit recalcitrant in its trade talks with Washington. We're now once again joined by Dr. Dewar to discuss these statements further. How sustainable is this 90-day tariff truce given the unresolved disputes over fentanyl and, of course, broader trade imbalances too, Dr. Dewar?
I think with China, for obvious reasons, the U.S. has to be patient. The U.S. is not going to be able to dictate deadlines to them. They are in a position, as they have already demonstrated, of hitting back without calling it tit for tat. They can also hurt the U.S. as they have shown in the case of the rare earths and the magnets, as well as in terms of certain other technology flows, the backward flows from the U.S., from China to the U.S. by putting restrictions on that. So with China, given its vulnerability to the Chinese exports to the U.S. as well as the Chinese imports, the U.S. will have to go along with it very patiently. And the Chinese have already mentioned it at no uncertain terms, that we are not going to be adhering to the deadlines for negotiations or arriving at deals dictated by the U.S. We will take our own time, and it's like a take it or leave it kind of an offer. And I think, given the mutual dependence upon each other, the U.S. has done well by agreeing to, but at the last moment, again, the Chinese would have noticed that on the 7th night or on the 8th night, when the, why 8th night? That was the day before, on the 11th.
Yes.
On the 11th night, when the deal with China was expiring, the last 90 days extension, that was at the nick of the moment, the government of the U.S. administration extended it by 3 months. Chinese would have liked to have it, greater predictability and greater certainty. So I'm sure that with China, the behavior, the conduct of the U.S. president,
yes, Dr. Dewar,
then it's going to be with the rest of the world, which is probably vulnerable and in not such a good position to challenge the U.S. like a trade.
Yes, Dr. Dewar, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. Pleasure.